A good-natured ladies' man, gunned down under mysterious circumstances.
He took that bullet and he went straight down.
Detectives look to his love life for clues to the murder.
Michael, open up! I know you're in there!
He knows our victim had some girlfriend problems.
But then, a cache of new evidence spins the case in a whole new direction.
He thinks he's protecting Michael's reputation.
To solve the crime, Kenda and his men must venture down a dangerous path.
You want to use extreme caution. We have backup with us in case things get ugly.
Get on the ground! Do it now!
These cases require focus. You don't get the truth by asking for it. You get the truth by forcing it.
There's one thing that never changes: murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim.
If you kill, I will find you.
It's nearly midnight in Colorado Springs. Like most residents on Marion Drive, Patty Moran is fast asleep.
It's quiet. She's in a deep sleep, but there's some noise coming from the other room.
What the hell? Yo, what are you doing? What you doing, man?
It wakes her up a little, but you're kind of in that place where you're half awake, half asleep. Her heart's racing, and then there was silence. Her roommate's body is covered in blood. It's an absolute nightmare.
Across town, Lt.Joe Kenda is preparing to head home after a busy week of detective work.
When I'm at work, you often had to just select a place to stop. Say, okay, this is enough for today. I'm going to go home now, and we'll come back to this on Monday.
It's Kenda.
It's the comm center. We have a shooting.
All right, I'll be right there.
So I guess I'm not going home.
"20 minutes later, Lieutenant Kenda pulls up to a modest rental home on Marion Drive.
Evening. TGIF, Brian. I wish. So what do we got? We got a shooting victim named Michael Tittlemore. He's a 23-year-old white male.
Ritz explained Mr. Tittlemore had been removed by ambulance. His condition was considered to be grave, and at 1:16 in the morning, Mr. Tittlemore is no longer with us. So now it's a homicide.
Who reported it? One of the two roommates, there's a Patty Moran and there's a Barry Wilson. Both roommates were here at the time of the shooting.
These two people in the house are obviously going to be our best witnesses. So these are the two critical people we want to talk to.
But first, Kenda and Ritz head inside to scrutinize the crime scene.
The front door has no evidence of forced entry. The lock mechanism and the door frame are intact. The place is somewhat unkept, but other than that, there's no evidence of any struggle taking place.
Do we know how many times he was shot?
We believe one shot to the chest.
The patrol officers that got on scene said that he was struck on the left side of the chest. The bullet traversed his body and came out under the right armpit.
There's quite a bit of blood on the floor, but there is no blood anywhere else. The likelihood is that it was grievous injury internally to his chest to cause him to literally fall straight to the floor. People always believe, like in the movies, that somebody gets shot and they fly backwards. But people in film don't understand Newton's third law, equal and opposite reaction to the application of force. People either fall forward or they fall straight down. They crumble.
They recover a weapon? No gun. They did find the casing for the round they think killed him.
It's a small .380 caliber shell casing. We also find where the projectile that had passed through the victim's body had actually struck the wall on the other side of the room.
Straight through. Tex dug it out. We've already sent everything to the lab for testing.
When you're conducting an investigation, you want to be able to tie the projectile or the bullet back to a particular weapon. Once you have that, you can identify the firearm to an individual. You're starting to build a better case.
Kenda and Ritz expand their search to the apartment's 2 bedrooms.
So 3 people stay here, but there's only 2 bedrooms?
Yeah, Patty, the female, lives here. She said she shares a bed with the victim.
Shared a bed?
Yeah, the way she described it, I think it's one of those friends with benefits type of things.
The living arrangement raises additional questions for detectives. Could there have been some underlying tension between the roommates?
This is interesting.
We see a broken window, which seemed a little unusual. Don't know if it correlates to this crime, but it's quite possibly it does.
Oh, yeah. This is Michael and the other roommate.
We did notice a picture of our victim, Michael, with Barry. It tells us they have obviously been friends for a while they were in the service together.
Let's go see what the roommates have to say.
When we speak with Patty, she's very distressed. She cares about Michael a great deal.
Miss Moran? I know you've been through a lot tonight. But we're here to help find out what happened to Michael. And we need your help.
But I don't know what happened. Michael and I went to bed, and I guess at some point he got up.
She says she hears a gunshot in the living room. She opens the bedroom door to see Michael Tittlemore laying on the ground, and there's nobody else around.
Barry came out of his room and yelled for me to call for help.
So you didn't see Barry in the living room when you first came out?
No, he came out of his room right after I did.
She's suggesting that Michael Tittlemore was shot by an unidentified third party, but we can't just take her word for it. We need to figure out the dynamics between the 3 roommates and make certain we're not missing anything.
Miss Miranda, are you and Michael a couple?
Wouldn't say that. I'm just crashing here until I can get my own place.
What about the relationship between Michael and Barry? Can you tell us a little about that?
They're good friends. They always got along as far as I know.
We asked her if she knew if Michael had any enemies, and she said no. Well, what about the broken window? She said, well, I don't know. It's been that way since I moved in.
How long have you been living here?
Just a little over a week.
Oh, thank you.
She's not volunteering anything, but she's responding to what we asked her. We feel at that moment we've probably gotten enough out of her for now, so we turn our attention to Barry, the other roommate.
Barry? Hey, Barry. Why don't you tell us about you and Michael? How did you know each other?
I've known Michael for years. He's one of my best friends. He's always had my back.
Michael Tittlemore and Barry both been in the military together, where they became friends. They both got out. Michael found a job as a cook in a local restaurant. His friend couldn't find a job, and Michael was the kind of guy that said, I'll take care of you. We'll work at it together. So Barry owed his friend a lot.
Why don't you walk us through what you saw, what you heard after the shooting?
I was in bed sleeping, and I heard a loud knock at the door.
Barry says Michael answers the door. He hears some words exchanged. He doesn't know what they said. Then there's a gunshot.
I admit that I was scared, you know? I didn't know what was going on. And then I heard Patty scream. And I went out and I saw Michael lying there bleeding. And we called 911.
Now, you said you heard voices in the other room. Can you tell me how many voices? Did you recognize any of them?
I couldn't make out who was talking, but I know Michael was talking to another guy. Honestly, I don't know.
He seems very remorseful, and I'm not sensing any real trouble between any of the 3 roommates. But I just can't help get that feeling that he's holding back, so we try to keep him talking.
We noticed that there was a broken window in Michael's bedroom. You have any idea what happened there?
No idea. I'm sorry, I just can't believe this happened to him, you know? Like, he didn't deserve this. I just need a minute.
But at this point, he's too emotional, and I can tell we're not going to get anywhere with him right now.
It's okay, Barry. Would you mind coming down to the station to help us out with a few more questions?
Yeah, of course.
Let's bring Patty, too.
Although I don't think that Barry or Patty pulled the trigger, they represent the best chance we have of finding out who did.
Kenda and the team head back to the station to re-interview the pair. But before that can happen, another tip rolls in.
Excuse me, Lieutenant. Come on in. We had a CI call in about the Tiddamore case. Oh, really?
CI is the abbreviation for confidential informant. It's an individual that has information to share, and they're willing to do it.
Is he reliable? He has been in the past, and he lives in the same neighborhood as your victim. Great. Said he'd be willing to meet you there. All right, thank you. You bet.
We have a particular CI whose name is Tony. That's not his name, but that's what he goes by. Fine, we don't need to know your last name. We need to know what you know.
Can I get you guys anything else?
No, we're all set. All right, Tony, why are we here?
So Tony says he's heard something about this. He needs a little cash. Well, of course he does.
That's it? What I've got is worth at least double this.
That's all I've got, man.
The most I ever paid an informant in my career was $100. To them, that was all the money in the world. Considering how they live, that is a lot of money.
So, I heard Tiddamore took a bullet. I know him.
And?
For starters, I know he has some crazy girl problems.
Girl problems.
Like the kind of problems that could get a guy killed? We are investigating the shooting death of Michael Tiddamore, who was killed in his own home. The people who live here say they don't know what happened. So we are reaching out to a local informant who claims to know that Michael Tiddamore has been having girl problems.
Man, Tiddamore was a player. He always was.
Yeah, how so?
Every couple months, I would see him with a different girl.
It seemed that Michael did have a history of being with young women for a month, 2 months, 3 months at a time, ending that relationship and moving on to the next one. That was his pattern.
Has he seen anybody recently?
He used to be with this girl named Angela, but they broke up. So she's with some other dude now.
He says she began staying with a guy named Trey, and they became an item, and Michael tried to get back in the picture, and Trey was extremely upset about that and had threatened Michael over it.
From what I know, Trey went over to Michael's place and they got into it pretty bad.
Do you know where this Trey lives?
That I don't know, but I can tell you where to find Angela.
Want to write it down for us?
He tells us she happens to live in the same neighborhood, which makes it easy for us.
As the sun comes up, Kenda and Ritz track down Michael's ex-girlfriend Angela at her home.
Ma'am, Colorado Springs Police Department.
Kind of early for a visit, don't you think?
Do you mind if we come in and ask you a couple of questions?
I'm not even dressed.
Angela presents herself as the usual resistive, I hate the police 22-year-old. Nothing unusual about that. No one wants to see us. No one ever does.
We need to talk to you about your ex-boyfriend, Michael Tiddamore, and your current boyfriend, Trey.
What? How do you know so much about my business? I don't have to talk to you.
Your ex, Michael, was murdered last night, and we're here to find out who did it.
Oh my God, what?
I never like to surprise someone with a death notice, but sometimes I don't have any choice.
This is crazy. Are you sure it's Michael?
I'm afraid so. What can you tell us about your relationship with him?
Well, we dated a little and then we broke up. I started seeing Trey, but I was still friendly with Michael.
She says Michael got a hold of her by phone. Trey became unstuck about it.
So Trey went over there to confront him.
Was Trey jealous of Michael?
You could say that. Trey ran over to Michael's, and he was ready to start a fight.
Michael, open the door. Michael, open up. I know you're in there. Yeah, I see you, Michael.
No one would open the door. So Trey goes to the side of the house and he sees Michael in the window.
Come out here and face me, man. Go away. I'm not going to start with you. I told you to stay away from my girl. You wouldn't listen. Quit being a little punk and get out here. Man, get off my property. Oh, you're not going to come out? No, get off. Okay. Hey, you better put that down.
And he throws a rock and breaks the window.
You gonna come out now? Man, you better get out of here. You're gonna pay for that. What kind of coward are you? Man, you better get out of here.
They found out it was Trey that was responsible for breaking the window in the apartment some weeks before.
Better watch your back. This ain't over, bitch. Hey, get off my property.
Now Trey is looking to be a pretty good suspect.
Do you know where we could find Trey? I'd really like to talk to him.
Don't look at me. You guys have him locked up.
What do you mean?
He's been there for over a week. He's been trying to post bail.
Want to check on that? Yeah. Can I use your phone?
It's over there.
The fact that this Trey individual was in custody is the ultimate alibi, but we have to confirm that. Very simple call down to the Criminal Justice Center.
She's right. He's been there for a couple of weeks.
Can I get on with my life now?
Yes, we're done here. I'm sorry to disturb you.
You encounter people with criminal records. They go in and out of jail rather commonly. Trey had no opportunity to shoot Michael because he was in the can.
With Trey cleared as a suspect, Kenda and Ritz return to the station, hoping to glean some additional information from Michael's roommates.
Since you take Patty, I'll take Barry. See if we can find anything new.
Sure thing. Excuse me, Lieutenant. We completed the search of the Tittlemore residence. We didn't find any weapons, but we did find something interesting.
When police do a sweep of Barry's room, they find a bag of weed under his mattress. But it's not just a small personal bag that one would have for personal use. This would indicate that someone was probably selling it.
All right, good find. Let's see what the roommates have to say about that.
Now this murder is making more sense. Where there's drugs, there's trouble.
All right, Patty. Let's just take it from the beginning, okay?
Okay.
While Ritz sits down with Patty Moran, Kenda goes in for round 2 with Barry Wilson.
Thanks for being patient.
So, what do you guys need from me?
Let's cut to the chase.
Why is somebody knocking on your door at midnight, Barry? Because he wants to borrow a cup of sugar. And he looks at the floor.
It was a bag of weed, okay? Michael's bag of weed. Okay, I'm sure you guys found it when you searched the place.
You're right, we did.
I said, Barry, we're not narcotics officers, we're homicide investigators. I'm concerned about Michael Tittlemore getting shot in the chest.
We're not going to bust you. But we need to know what kind of operation Michael was involved in so we can catch whoever did this to him. Well?
Michael was just selling a little on the side to make ends meet, okay?
Just a little on the side.
Barry says Michael worked at kind of an entry-level job at a restaurant, wasn't making a whole lot of money, and he was supplementing his income by just selling a little marijuana.
Look, you have to understand he wasn't a big-time dealer or anything, okay? He was small-time, you know? Maybe selling an ounce here or there.
And who was he selling to?
I don't know, mostly just friends. But lately, anyone who would ask.
Great. So now we have everybody in the city of Colorado Springs who uses marijuana who's a suspect in this event.
So this guy who came banging on the door at midnight was there to buy drugs?
I don't know, probably.
So there's any number of possibilities that now exist that didn't exist 5 minutes ago, but certainly complicate this case immensely. Michael is a dealer. He's a low-level dealer, but he's a dealer nonetheless.
When I saw Michael lying there, okay, I saw the bag of weed and I moved it. I didn't want Michael to get in trouble. Okay, it must have just fallen out of his duffel bag.
His duffel bag?
Yeah, that's where he keeps all his stuff.
He told us there was a duffel bag that Michael usually kept his marijuana in, along with some other paraphernalia to include scales and stuff like that. But that bag was missing.
I'm sorry I didn't tell you guys earlier, okay? I panicked, I knew the cops were on their way, and I picked up the bag and I hid it.
Your best friend is murdered and is dying in front of you. I can't imagine the things that goes through a person's mind.
You have to understand, Michael was my best friend. And I don't want his family to be ashamed of him.
People very often alter crime scenes. They remove things they think is damaging. He thinks he's protecting Michael's reputation, when in point of fact, he's just muddying the water and making this even more difficult.
Barry, what else are you holding back on him?
That's everything I know.
And I said, Barry, you need to be straight with me when there's a knock at the door.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Mind if I join you? Sure. Barry was just about to tell us everything was going on here.
There's nothing left to tell.
Well, Barry, I just got done speaking with your friend Patty, and she said I needed to talk to you because she said that you knew who killed Michael.
According to Patty, our man Barry knows who the killer is. Well, my. I'm all ears. We've discovered that our victim, Michael Tittlemore, dabbled in the drug trade. Now, apparently, we have someone who can name the person who pulled the trigger.
Is this true, Barry? Because if you know who killed your friend, you need to help us catch him. Come on, Barry. Michael was your friend. Help your friend.
I don't know him, okay?
So Barry opens up to as much as he knows.
He came around a couple times. I think he's one of Michael's customers. You have to understand, he started just selling to friends.
The usual concept of I'm only going to sell to friends and friends of friends lasts about 6 hours. And then it's on to anybody that has the money.
I guess word got out and more people started showing up and then things flew off the handle.
He says this guy shows up at their place the day of the murder and had a falling out with Michael.
Hey man, so what can I do for you?
Man, let's just get enough for a blunt.
How much?
Just enough for a blunt. I got the money right now, but I'll get you back next time. That's so funny.
He thinks it was a person by the name of Bo. He had actually purchased marijuana from our victim before.
Listen, man, I ain't a bank.
Come on, man, you know
I'm not giving you a loan, man. Come back when you got the cash.
Talk about a bank, man. I need my right now.
You need to get out right now. Come back when you got some
you stepping up on. All right, man. Don't worry. I'll be back, bitch. I'll be back.
Barry describes him as maybe having a little bit of a Napoleon complex.
He was definitely a psycho. I definitely think he'd be crazy enough to kill someone.
Why didn't you mention this Bo to us before?
I don't know, man. I'm not a snitch, okay? And besides, I don't know anything about him.
Kenda and Ritz waste no time digging up all they can on their new person of interest.
Hey, Chris. What's up? We got a name we need you to run.
When we're trying to identify Bo, we're able to, in our database, to search by the monikers or AKAs.
Now, almost always you come up with 25 Bo's, but it's a place to begin.
Yeah, we've got some bows, but nothing too concrete.
Okay, you go ahead and print that out. I'll have somebody look into it.
Yeah, sure.
So we're making progress, however slow it is, and then we get some news that I am desperate for.
Hey, Lieutenant. The guys in ballistics are looking for you, and they've got some information back on that Tittlemore case you've been working on. Fantastic.
It's useful in this case to have an expanded casing, and it's really useful to have a slug.
Give us some good news, Doug.
Here, take a look at this. We got a match on those markings.
The extractor and ejector markings on expanded casings are unique to a particular weapon.
We know that 380 killed Mr. Tittimoor. We also know that the same pistol was used in another shooting a few months back.
Great. Mind if we keep this?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's very helpful to us in the fact that if that case has suspects or has names associated with it, gives something to look at.
Armed with this new information, Kenda and Ritz begin to dig through reports from the shooting 3 months prior.
You see anything?
Just looks like a gang thing. Victim's name was Martin Webb. Shot in the leg, he survived.
And it turns out he's in jail in Los Angeles at the time we learn of it.
Oh, that's not gonna work.
No.
So it's not practical to send somebody to Los Angeles to talk to a guy about getting shot in the leg.
Wait a minute. Police could never prove who did the shooting, but the two prime suspects were a guy named K-Dub and a fellow named Bo.
Really?
Well, guess what? We got a Bo in our investigation.
That is crucial information. So Bo is not just a person of interest. Bo is suspect number one.
Desperate to get their hands on Bo, Kenda turns to a tactic that has worked for them in the past.
Yes, this is Lieutenant Kenda with the CSPD. We've got this homicide case on our hands that we could really use some help on. Yes, we'll send you over the details.
We use a Crime Stoppers program, which provides money to informants who come forward to lead to an arrest of a wanted person. So we put the word on the street. Where is Bo?
Of course, you're going to get a lot of fake leads. Maybe somebody wants a quick payout. But eventually, somebody is going to come forward with something that is a real lead.
2 days later, Kenda and Ritz are planning their next move.
We might have to take a new tack on this.
I mean, we can always go back to the original.
Hey, Lt. Been meaning to talk with you. Got an informant named Franklin. He says he knows who you're looking for and where to find him.
Oh, Franklin. Good for you, because we want to find Bo and drag him into a police station by his nostrils. So we're investigating the death of Michael Tittimoor. At this point, I'm thinking that Bo is going to be our shooter because he uses the same gun in 2 different shootings. We have an informant who says, I know where you can find Bo.
You Franklin?
Yeah. Working with informants is a very chancy thing in a lot of ways. Hopefully it's valid information, but you just don't know.
So what do you got for us, Franklin?
Okay, here's the deal. The guy you're looking for, he's part of this gang called H2MG.
The informant Franklin says H2MG means homicidal deuce money-making gangster, which is absolutely insane, of course. But if you have an IQ of 75, apparently it's meaningful.
And what do these guys have to do with the murder of Michael Tittimoor?
Well, I was out, doing my thing, minding my business. This guy called K-Dub, he was shooting his mouth off.
And that's important because we know that K-Dub was the name that came up with Bo in another investigation of another shooting.
K-Dub was just standing around talking with some of his crew. Apparently, he jacked some white dude.
Jack, in 1993, was an expression indicating an armed robbery.
Now, I don't know if it was K-Dub or one of the other H2MG guys that actually shot the white guy, but I know they was involved.
Now, at this moment, that really appeals to me. A bunch of nitwits get together, make a decision to do a robbery, things go bad, and Michael dies.
You know K-Dub's real name? Where he hangs out?
Yeah, Harper. I think his first name is Kevin. He stays with a friend over in this White House over on Summit Street.
So they have identified one suspect, Kevin Harper, but now they have to figure out who Bo is.
Do you know anything about a guy named Bo that might be part of all this?
Yeah, Bo. There's a guy called Bo, part of H2MG. Small guy.
Franklin says he looks like he's 11 years old, but he knows he's 17. And he's got a tattoo. It's got H2MG in his right arm.
These guys are dangerous, man.
Thanks for the info.
All right.
Shortly after speaking with Franklin, Kenda and Ritz arrive outside the home of Kevin Harper, aka K-Dub, and wait for backup.
Dispatch for Kenda.
Go for Kenda.
Lieutenant, we ran a search on Kevin Harper. He's got an active arrest warrant issued through the local courts.
Knowing he has an active warrant is good for us. We have a valid reason to bring him in.
You ready? Let's do this.
The fact that K-Dub belongs to a wannabe gang indicates he fancies himself as someone who's a tough guy, which means he's willing to do anything to prove it.
Knock again.
I didn't do that.
Turn around. You're under arrest. Good go.
First words out of his mouth is, I didn't do anything. Well, that usually is a clue to us is, yeah, you did something. Now let's figure out what it is.
At the station, the detectives offer K-Dub a chance to prove his innocence.
Look, we don't care about the existing possessions charge, all right? We want to know about Michael Tiddamore.
I know you guys think I shot that guy, but I didn't. And I could prove it.
Well, yeah, we'd love to hear all about that, Kevin.
According to K-Dub, there's this guy he knows named Bo, who has bought weed off this new guy named Michael Tiddamore.
He's talking about going over there and taking his stash.
Was he working with anyone?
He was working with John and Snoop.
K-Dub says that he didn't participate in the drug rip. Instead, he just stayed home with his girlfriend.
So the three of them took off, and Bo took the community gun.
Wait, the community gun?
This investigation is the first time I've ever come across the term community gun. And in this particular case, it meant that this small group of individuals had one weapon between them, and they just shared the weapon.
K-Dub explains that Bo, John, and Snoop returned an hour later. And when K-Dub found out that Bo had used the community gun to actually shoot someone, he was furious.
K-Dub was angry at Bo that he involved him. It's a first-degree murder, and he's in it up to his neck, courtesy of Bo.
Honestly, Detective, I wasn't part of it.
Yeah, we'll see about that. But right now, we need to talk to this Bo. What's his real name?
Floyd Sennett. I know he's staying over there at a house on Marion Boulevard.
Thank you very much, Kevin. We'll be sure to give your friend Bo your warmest regards.
As the sun rises, Kenda sets up surveillance on the house where Floyd Sennett, who goes by the street name Bo, is allegedly holing up.
We come prepared with a warrant to search his home and for his arrest.
See anything?
No, nothing.
In a situation like this, you want to use extreme caution. We have no idea how dangerous he is.
Hold on. We got somebody coming out.
All right, everyone hold tight. This might be our guy.
I'm hoping that Bo surrenders without incident, but given the fact he's been in 2 shootings that we know about, I'm not willing to bet on it. We finally have a location for our prime suspect, Floyd Sennett, also known as Bo. We have backup with us in case things get ugly.
All right, everyone hold tight. This might be our guy.
Guys that look like little kids and that carry guns are dangerous. Nobody's going to interfere with them because they'll shoot them if they do.
That's him. Let's grab him. Go ahead and cuff him.
Lo and behold, here is Mr. Floyd Sennett.
Floyd Sennett? You're under arrest for the murder of Michael Tiddamore. Get him out here.
Back at the station, the detectives escort Floyd's mother into the interrogation room.
Floyd, are you okay?
Yes, Mom.
So she waives Bo's rights for him and tells her son to tell the police the truth.
I need you to tell me about the day you and your friends went and robbed Michael Tittlemore.
Talk to the man, Bo. Tell him you had nothing to do with this nonsense.
Mama, I don't know what to say.
You better say something.
Floyd is what he is. He is a frightened child. Even though he's 17, he knows that this is the big one, and he is terrified.
I don't know about no robbery. I've met Michael before, but I don't know who shot him.
Bo, I already know what happened. And whether you know it or not, you're already up to your neck in this.
We know you had a gun for months. You used it to shoot a guy in the leg, and you used that same gun to shoot Michael Tittlemore. So why don't you just tell us what you did? We'll save everybody a lot of time.
I used to buy weed from Michael, but he said I couldn't have a tab, so I told my friend K-Dub. He said I could just go take it.
Bo is already painting a different story from what K-Dub told us. Bo says that K-Dub pressured him to put together a robbery plan. K-Dub told him because Tittlemore knows him, knows Bo, that if Bo knocks on the door, Tittlemore will open the door.
Man, you said a dude know you. He gonna open the door for you. Take Snoop and John John with you. Go take it.
I don't know, man. He got a roommate. This might go bad.
So what? Take the community gun. Stop acting like a little bitch.
All right, Joe, let's go.
Now go get that money.
So K-Dub is essentially pressuring Bo to do this job. He's provided the weapon, he's provided the plan, and sent him on his way.
So you, John, and Snoop went over to Michael's house. What happened next?
So apparently they all had a role. Bo would broker the deal because Michael knew him. John would handle the gun for the stick-up, and Snoop would be the backup.
You got the piece?
Yeah, I got it.
Yo, man, you gotta knock louder.
Man, I'm not trying to wake the whole damn neighborhood.
Michael comes to the door.
You guys gotta come back tomorrow. I got the money.
Bo says, "Hey man, it's Bo. I need some stuff."
Let's make this quick, man. I gotta work tomorrow.
Our victim doesn't really want to sell him anything. He goes and opens the door for him. That fits. We don't have forced entry. It fits the crime scene.
How much you got, man?
I got 50 on me.
He's not alarmed that he has two guys with him. Just figured he needs to buy some weed. So he gets his bag, again the amateur, showing now more people than Bo his supply. So in the heat of the moment, the adrenaline is pumping through Bo's veins.
Yo, what are you doing? Put the gun down, man.
Give me your whole stash.
He shoots him once. He fell down, Bo grabbed the bag, and they ran, all three of them.
Yo, we gotta go.
What Bo doesn't realize is when he grabbed the big bag of marijuana fell out of it. So he's running out with this empty duffel bag with just some drug paraphernalia in it.
It was a total bust. It was just a couple pipes in the bag, but no money, no weed.
So what did you guys do with the gun and the duffel bag?
I don't know. I went numb after I shot him. I think John just tossed the gun somewhere on our way to K-Dub's house.
With Floyd Sennett's assistance, Kenda's team is able to track down and arrest his two accomplices.
We're able to confirm their real names and round them up. John is Jonathan Butler. Snoop is Corey Shaw.
Just have a seat right here.
They both corroborate the story of Bo that this was a robbery gone bad.
So you're telling me that K-Dub orchestrated this whole robbery thing from the beginning. Is that about right?
Yeah. He told us what we were supposed to do when we got to that guy's place. But then the whole plan fell apart. It's Bo's fault.
We never found the community gun involved in this event. I'm sure it moved on into 10 other pairs of hands. The gun would have been a nice thing to have, but it was never found.
Stop right there.
Now confident in Kevin Harper's involvement in the murder, Kenda orders his arrest.
3206. Your name, sir? Mr. Harper, you're charged with one count of conspiracy to commit aggravated robbery.
Kevin Harper, K-Dub, was found guilty of conspiracy to commit aggravated robbery and conspiracy to commit a crime, and he's sentenced to 10 years in prison for those two offenses.
Jonathan Butler, a.k.a. John, was found guilty of robbery and being a habitual criminal and received 24 years. Corey Shaw, street name Snoop, pled guilty to second-degree murder and aggravated robbery. He was sentenced to 16 years for each crime. Floyd Sennett, also known as Bo, was prosecuted as an adult and pled guilty to second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 45 years in prison. But no amount of jail time will bring back 23-year-old Michael Tittlemore.
Michael Tittlemore served his country honorably, discharged from the military. Unable to support himself, he chose to sell small amounts of drugs. He believed that was the avenue for his success, and it was his avenue to the grave.
Entire vile conspiracy. He explained that a year prior to the murder, Patricia complained to her sister Sheila about Fred being a tightwad and asked her to find someone to eliminate him. Sheila immediately turned to Leroy, brokering a deal where Patricia would pay him $30,000 from the impending insurance money. On the night of April 24th, 1991, Leroy drove up to North Carolina with a .22 caliber weapon, disabled his own vehicle by removing the ignition coil, and called the Brown residence claiming to be stranded. Fred, being the inherently compassionate man that he was, drove out into the dark night to help a stranger in need. While Fred was looking under the hood, Leroy pulled the gun and coldly informed Fred that his own wife wanted him dead. Fred begged for his life and tried to run, but Leroy shot him in the back, stepped on his spine, and delivered 2 fatal shots to the head before stealing his wallet to stage a robbery and throwing the gun into the Coosa River. And the most pathetic detail of this entire miserable plot is that Patricia never even paid Leroy the $30,000 she promised him. I tell you, there is absolutely no honor among thieves, and certainly none among cowardly murderers. Armed with phone records that perfectly corroborated Leroy's timeline, investigators finally arrested both sisters. Sheila instantly turned on her sister to save herself, taking the stand for the prosecution. During the trial in May of 1995, the courtroom fell dead silent as Leroy calmly reenacted the execution. Patricia's defense attorneys desperately tried to argue that Leroy was trying to blackmail Fred over a fabricated affair, but the jury easily saw through the pathetic lies. After 2 days of deliberation, Patricia Brown was rightfully found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison, where she died less than 7 years later in 2002. Leroy and Sheila both pled guilty to second-degree murder and each received 50-year sentences. Behind bars, 3 lives locked away and 1 decent man executed in the dirt, all over a flock of screaming birds and some real estate debt. Conscience is usually a quiet voice, but in the dark and empty soul of Patricia Brown, it was entirely silent. A tragic mirage, the cost of boundless ambition and the shattering of a family. As observers deeply rooted in the cultural fabric of Germany, we are raised with profound appreciation for Masshalten, the wisdom of moderation and balance, and Zusammenhalt, the unbreakable bond of community solidarity. We are taught that true security does not stem from boundless wealth, but from a harmonious life, grounded in reality, mutual support, and a quiet gratitude for what we have. Yet, when we cast our journalistic gaze across the ocean to a quiet neighborhood in Arlington, Texas, we bear witness to a chilling narrative. It is a profound tragedy that unfolded on June 10, 2012, serving as a dark cautionary tale about the absolute collapse of reason when the human spirit is consumed by greed and unchecked desperation. This is the story of Long Nguyen and Hong Lee, a devoted elderly couple who crossed continents in the year 2000 to build a new life in the United States. It is also the story of how their relentless pursuit of prosperity became the very instrument of their demise, orchestrated by those they trusted most, the burden of an unforgiving dream. Long Nguyen and Hong Lee were the embodiment of resilience. Fleeing the shadows of their homeland's turbulent past, they arrived in Texas with their children, hoping to forge a legacy. In the early years, their diligence bore fruit. They established a commercial sewing business, working tirelessly and eventually securing lucrative contracts with major corporations. They were beloved figures in their community, known for their warmth, generosity, and quiet dedication. However, the foundation of their success was fragile. By the year 2011, the tides of fortune had turned. Major contracts were lost, and the family business began to hemorrhage money. In German culture, times of crisis often draw communities closer together, relying on a robust social safety net and a collective spirit of endurance. But for Long and Hong, the terror of financial ruin induced a profound psychological paralysis. Stripped of their security, they did not turn to rational restructuring or community aid. Instead, paralyzed by the fear of losing their hard-won status, they regressed into the ancient mysticisms of their heritage. They became convinced that a spiritual curse was the root of their misfortune. This fatal departure from rational thought left them deeply vulnerable to exploitation. The psychology of exploitation, the false savior, desperation is a fertile breeding ground for predators. Through a local newspaper, the couple, guided by their son-in-law, 38-year-old Chow Tran, found a spiritual advisor based 250 miles away in Houston. Her name was Daphne Wright. To understand Daphne Wright is to look into the abyss of pathological greed. She presented herself as a savior capable of lifting curses and restoring prosperity. In reality, she was a master manipulator who weaponized faith. Psychologically, Daphne operated with a chilling detachment from human suffering. She recognized a profound existential terror gripping Long and Hong and capitalized on it, charging exorbitant fees for hollow rituals. Over time, the family's debt to the spiritual advisor swelled to an astonishing sum, estimated between $250,000 and $280,000. Daphne established a psychological monopoly over the family, convincing them that failure to pay will result in catastrophic spiritual and physical ruin. When the couple inevitably could not pay, Daphne's illusion of spiritual guidance evaporated, revealing a ruthless extortionist who demanded ultimate repayment, the ultimate betrayal, an inside job. The most devastating element of this tragedy is not the cruelty of a stranger, but the betrayal from within. Chow Tran, the son-in-law who served as the face of the family business, emerged as the dark architect of his own family's destruction. Financial records later revealed that Chow and his wife were the beneficiaries of life insurance, policies totaling $850,000. Faced with mounting debts and the collapse of his business, Chow's internal moral compass shattered completely. The psychological leap required to sacrifice one's own family for monetary gain is incomprehensible to those who value the sanctity of kinship. Yet, for Chow, the elderly couple ceased to be beloved parents. They became disposable assets. In a staggering display of manipulation, Chow claimed his mother-in-law willingly offered herself as a sacrifice to appease their debts. This absurd assertion highlights the depths of Chow's self-deception and moral bankruptcy. He provided Daphne Wright with the keys to his in-laws' apartment, actively participating in a plot to violently end their lives to collect a massive financial windfall, the execution, and the innocent pawns. To execute this macabre plan, Daphne Wright preyed upon another layer of societal vulnerability. She enlisted 49-year-old Bobby Guillory, a man struggling with homelessness and severe poverty, offering him $10,000. Bobby, in turn, brought along his 16-year-old nephew, Willie. On the morning of June 10, 2012, the tragedy was set into motion. The perpetrators entered the apartment and waited. When Long and Hong returned from a joyful family birthday celebration, they were ambushed in their own sanctuary. The crime scene was deliberately staged to look like a random act of gang violence, complete with scattered belongings and a strategically placed colored bandana. The elderly couple was cruelly bound and suffered fatal injuries, their lives extinguished in a place that should have been their safe haven. For years, the stage scene confounded seasoned homicide investigators. It was not until the year 2015, when Willie, now an adult, committed a separate offense, that his genetic material was entered into a national database. This evidence matched a discarded marijuana cigarette left at the Arlington crime scene, unraveling the entire conspiracy. A somber reflection on justice and human nature. The wheels of justice turn slowly and often leave a bitter aftermath. In September of the year 2019, a jury sentenced Daphne Wright to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Bobby and Willie Guillory also face the severe consequences of their actions. Yet, the resolution remains fractured. To secure the conviction against the mastermind, prosecutors were forced to offer Chow Tran immunity in exchange for his testimony. The man who unlocked the door to his family's demise walked away, his pockets lined with the insurance money, untouchable by the law. As we reflect on this harrowing sequence of events, we are reminded of why society must prioritize the spiritual and communal well-being of its people over the relentless pursuit of wealth. The tragedy in Texas is a dark mirror reflecting the absolute worst of human avarice. It reinforces our belief that true peace is found in knowing when we have enough, in cherishing our loved ones above all material gain, and in maintaining a steadfast grip on reason when the storms of life threaten to overwhelm us. The memories of Long, Nguyen, and Hong Lee deserve to be honored not through the lens of brutality they suffered, but as a solemn reminder of the enduring need for empathy, integrity, and the protective embrace of a grounded community. Humans are peculiar creatures. They kill for the most ridiculous reasons you could possibly imagine, and they often think they are absolute geniuses while doing it. When a person closes a door at night, nobody knows what goes on inside. But blood has a voice, and a crime scene is a very bad liar. Let me tell you about a 37-year-old man named Bernie James. Born in the summer of 1949, Bernie was a good man. He was a Marine who served 2 tours in the jungles of Vietnam. He came back home, became a firefighter, a paramedic, and eventually a park ranger. He spent his entire life protecting people and preserving life. He met his first wife, Lisa, on a medical call. They had a beautiful magnetic attraction and brought 3 children into this world in just 3 years. Life was good until tragedy struck. An aneurysm took Lisa away just before Christmas of 1980. Bernie was left broken, a single father drowning in grief, desperately trying to keep his 3 toddlers afloat. He had a massive heart, and I tell you, that heart became his absolute greatest vulnerability. Enter a woman named Patty. She had a deep surgical scar on her face from a childhood tumor. She convinced herself that the world found her hideous, that nobody would ever love her. But Bernie did not see that scar. He saw a companion. He saw a mother for his children. He married her in 1982, and she legally adopted his kids. But Patty was not a savior. Her physical scar was absolutely nothing compared to the ugly, bottomless void inside her soul. She was a master manipulator, a grifter who even faked her own child being deaf just to steal money from local churches. She isolated those children from the world. She kept Bernie away from his own parents. She was a parasite, feeding on the goodness of a man who just wanted his family to be whole. By the spring of 1987, they were living in the quiet bedroom community of Wilton Manors, Florida. Bernie had finally opened his eyes to the monster in his house. He was planning to divorce her. Now, a woman like Patty cannot handle rejection. She had already been divorced twice. To her, Bernie leaving meant losing her control and her financial cover. So she decided he had to die. But first, she made sure she was the sole beneficiary of his life insurance policy, completely cutting out his 3 young children. My, the pure greed of some people is truly astounding. On March 24th, 1987, at 9:22 in the evening, a frantic 911 call comes into dispatch. Patty claimed she found Bernie unresponsive in his car in their driveway. When officers arrive, the family is performing cardiopulmonary resuscitation on the front lawn. Emergency medical services determine Bernie is already dead. I look at this scene and immediately things do not add up. Bernie has severe blunt force trauma to the right side of his head and ascending ligature marks around his neck. He was attacked from behind and strangled. But look at the car. The passenger seat is fully reclined. There's a tiny bit of blood on the center console, but nowhere near enough blood volume for a catastrophic head wound. You cannot swing a weapon inside a compact vehicle and generate that kind of lethal force. It is physically impossible. You have to be kidding me if you think this murder happened in that car. Then we look at the supposed robbery. His wallet is tossed a few feet away on the grass, rifled through. There is no cash, but his credit cards and identification are still inside. I tell you, a real mugger grabs a wallet and runs down the street. They do not do a casual inventory check on your driveway. And then there is Patty and her ridiculous story. She says Bernie was outside fixing an electrical issue and doing an oil change. She claims she went outside and saw him talking to a tall black man with a French accent asking for matches. 20 minutes later, she finds Bernie dead, but we check the vehicle. The oil dipstick is completely full. No oil change was happening. Patty was lying through her teeth. The entire crime scene was staged, and it was staged poorly by an amateur. We bring her into the police department. We press her. We show her that her story is absolute garbage. Suddenly, the grieving widow changes her tune. She lowers her head and says she knows who killed him. She points the finger at a man named Tim Ott, someone they knew from a local bowling league. She claims Tim was trying to protect her from Bernie and his alleged physical abuse. She weaves this elaborate tale of going to Tim and his apartment, getting locked in the bathroom, hearing the television turn up extremely loud, and coming out to find Tim dragging Bernie to the car. We find Tim Ott, a soft-spoken, supposedly intelligent man. We sit him down and ask him about Patty and Bernie. He looks confused. He says he does not know anyone by those names. We show him photographs. He points at them and says, "Oh, that is Demian Booth. You cannot make this up." Patty had completely fabricated multiple identities. She was pretending to be a made-up flight attendant named TJ over the phone, feeding Tim lies that Bernie, whom she called Booth, was an abusive monster and a child molester. Then Patty played the role of Demi to meet Tim in person and orchestrate the actual murder plot. Tim thought he was a knight in shining armor, saving a damsel in distress. Instead, he was the ultimate pawn for a calculating psychopath. Tim confesses. He admits they lured Bernie to his apartment. Tim hit him with a baseball bat, then strangled him with a piece of wire. He drove Bernie back to his own house in his own car, arranged the scene, and walked away on foot. We go to Tim and his apartment. He said he tried to clean it up, but luminol does not care about your household cleaning skills. The bedroom carpet glowed with blood evidence, perfectly corroborating the blunt force trauma. Patty thought she was smarter than everyone else. She thought she could pull the strings, play the victim, and walk away rich and unburdened. But arrogance breeds stupidity. Tim took a plea deal for second-degree murder to testify against her, after mistrial caused by one stubborn juror who refused to look at the facts. The second jury saw Patty for exactly what she was. They convicted her of first-degree murder, and she was sentenced to spend the rest of her natural life in a concrete box. Bernie James survived the horrors of war only to be slaughtered by the very woman he trusted to raise his motherless children. If the word evil could ever be applied to a human being, it belongs to Patty. She had no conscience, no compassion, and absolutely no remorse. She shattered a loving family just to protect her own fragile ego and line her pockets. I have looked into the eyes of a lot of killers in my career. Most are driven by fleeting rage or sheer desperation. But Patty was a cold, empty void. She is exactly where she belongs, and society is far safer with her locked away in the dark. Humans are strange creatures. They kill for the most ridiculous reasons you can possibly imagine, and they always think they are smarter than the police. I tell you, they never are. Take a drive down Interstate 44 into Franklin County, Missouri. It is a quiet place, just farmland and woods, where people mind their own business. But the devil does not care about city limits. On the night of October 22, 1992, a motorist spotted a fire in a remote field near Stanton. Firefighters put out the blaze and found a truck reduced to its bare frame. In the passenger seat sat a badly burned body. The fire had consumed almost everything, but fire cannot burn away the truth. It just makes us look harder. There was a metal rod in the right leg of the victim, and a vehicle identification number etched into the truck frame. That number led us to Karen and Danny Coleman in St. Louis. Danny was 38 years old. He was a mechanical engineer and an Army veteran whose service was cut short by a motorcycle accident, which explained the metal pin. He was a good man, a father to an 18, provided the detectives with a detailed timeline of the previous evening. June 9th had been a celebration of Long Nguyen's birthday. The family had gathered for a joyful dinner, playing cards and sharing stories until approximately 10 o'clock in the evening. Afterward, another relative had driven the elderly couple back to their apartment. That was the last time they were seen alive. When asked about potential financial motives, Chow admitted that the family's sewing business had struggled significantly, but he claimed there was very little cash kept within the home. He expressed absolute bewilderment as to who would wish to harm his gentle in-laws. The mystery deepened a few days later when Detective Stewart received an unexpected phone call from a life insurance representative. The representative revealed that Long and Hong were covered by a highly substantial joint life. Insurance policy valued at $1 million. When the detective inquired about the named beneficiaries, one name stood out clearly: Chow Tran. Chapter 4: The Cold Trail and the Hidden Name. On June 13th, the year 2012, detectives invited Chow Tran to the station to discuss the insurance policy. Chow remained cooperative and calm. He explained that the policy had been established to safeguard the commercial sewing business, ensuring that if any tragedy befell the elders, the family would have the financial resources necessary to keep the business operational and support the grandchildren. Furthermore, Chow and the remaining family members possessed solid, mutually verified alibis for the entire night of the crime. They had been together, enjoying a family gathering far from the scene of the tragedy. The forensic laboratory processed the genetic material recovered from the marijuana cigarette, hoping to find a match within the federal database known as the Combined DNA Index System. However, the results returned negative. The genetic profile did not match any registered individuals, nor did it match any of the family members who had willingly provided samples. With no database matches and no immediate leads, the investigation slowly ground to a halt. The neighborhood returned to its quiet routines. The sewing machines remained silent, and for more than 3 years, the files on the desks of Long Nguyen and Hong gathered dust in the archives of the Arlington Police Department. Then, in the autumn of the year 2015, a completely unrelated event in a neighboring county breathed new life into the forgotten case. A 19-year-old young man named Willie Guillory was arrested in Houston for a felony offense involving the theft of a horse. Because a felony conviction requires the collection of a genetic profile for federal database, Willie's genetic blueprint was entered into the system for the very first time. Within days, a computer system in Washington flagged a perfect match. The genetic material found on the discarded marijuana cigarette at the crime scene in Arlington, Texas, in the year 2012 belonged to Willie Guillory. At the time of the crime, Willie had been only 16 years old, which explained why his profile had never been in the adult database. Chapter 5. The Web of the Spiritual Advisor. On October 17th, the year 2015, investigators traveled to interview Willie Guillory. Confronted with the scientific certainty of his genetic profile being present inside the apartment, the young man broke down in tears and confessed. He revealed that he had not acted alone. He had been led to Arlington by his 49-year-old uncle, Bobby Guillory. Willie explained that his uncle had been approached by a prominent spiritual advisor in Houston, named Daphne Wright. According to Willie, Daphne was the orchestrator of the entire plan. She had reportedly claimed that the elderly couple owed her an astronomical sum of money, somewhere between $250,000 and $280,000, for spiritual rituals, curse-lifting ceremonies, and prosperity blessings performed over the previous year. When the family's business failed to recover, the debt had continued to grow. Daphne, unwilling to lose her investment, had learned of the substantial life insurance policies. She allegedly proposed a dark solution to recoup her funds, recruiting Bobby Guillory with the promise of a $10,000 payment to execute the deed. Armed with this astonishing revelation, detectives arrested Bobby Guillory on December 16th, the year 2015. Bobby, who had no prior criminal record, confessed to his involvement, confirming that Daphne Wright was indeed the mastermind who had coordinated the logistics, provided the keys to the apartment, and demanded the debt be settled at any cost. Yet, a shocking question remained. How had Daphne obtained the key to the elderly couple's apartment? During his interrogation, Bobby looked directly at the detectives and uttered a name that sent a chill through the room. Chao Tran. Chapter 6. The Verdict of Time. The revelation of Chao Tran's potential involvement painted a far more complex picture of devotion, fear, and financial desperation. Investigators learned that the family had become deeply ensnared in Daphne's spiritual influence. They believed implicitly in her power to control fortunes and manipulate destiny. Chao claimed that his mother-in-law, Hong, had grown so desperate to save her family from bankruptcy and the spiritual wrath of the advisor that she had contemplated sacrificing herself so the family could collect the insurance money to pay the staggering debt. While prosecutors harbored deep doubts about this narrative, they recognized that to secure a conviction against the primary instigator, Daphne Wright, they required Chao's detailed testimony. In exchange for his full cooperation and truthful testimony against Bobby, Willie, and Daphne, the state offered Chao immunity from prosecution. In August of the year 2019, the trial of Daphne Wright commenced. The courtroom was filled with quiet tension as the details of the spiritual business were laid bare. The prosecution presented ledger books seized from Daphne's residence, detailing extraordinary fees of tens of thousands of dollars charged to vulnerable clients seeking luck and blessings. Chow Tran took the stand, describing Daphne as an incredibly powerful, demanding figure who held an absolute psychological grip over his family's actions and decisions. The defense countered by arguing that Chow was the true beneficiary of the tragedy, pointing out that the insurance proceeds had gone directly into his bank accounts, enabling the purchase of a new home. Ultimately, after days of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict of guilty. Daphne Wright was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Bobby and Willie Guillory likewise faced the consequences of their actions under the law. Though the legal proceedings reached their formal conclusion, the detectives who had poured their lives into the case remained reflective. The memory of the gentle weavers, Long and Hong, who had crossed oceans in search of a peaceful life, lingered in the hearts of the community. Their journey stood as a poignant reminder of the enduring power of family, the tragic dangers of unchecked greed, and the relentless light of justice that, even after years of darkness, eventually finds its way into the deepest corners of the world. Chapter 1. The Promise of the Lone Star State. The sun always seemed to rise with peculiar warmth over Arlington, Texas. It was a sprawling city in Tarrant County, a place where the concrete highways stretched out like giant ribbons connecting a beautiful mosaic of different cultures. By the late 90s and the early 2000s, the city had become a sanctuary of hope for families from all over the world. Among them were Long Nguyen and his beloved wife, Hong Lu. When they immigrated to the United States from Vietnam in the year 2000, they brought with them very little in the way of material wealth, but their hearts were overflowing with dreams. They possessed an enduring love for each other, a deep respect for their time-honored heritage, and an unwavering commitment to their 3 children and grandchildren. For them, the American dream was not about grand luxury. It was about building a safe harbor where their family could flourish. The Vietnamese community in Arlington was vibrant and tight-knit. The first wave of immigrants had arrived after 1975, following the fall of Saigon. Over the decades, they had built businesses, temples, churches, and neighborhoods that felt like home. Long and Hong chose Arlington because they saw a place where they could combine their traditional values with modern opportunities. They were a sweet, gentle couple. Neighbors often saw them walking hand in hand through their neighborhood, offering warm smiles and kind waves to everyone they passed. To build a legacy for their family, Long and Hong started a commercial sewing business. It was a modest enterprise at first, filled with a steady hum of sewing machines and the vibrant colors of fabrics. They enlisted the help of their son-in-law, Chow Tran, a 38-year-old man who spoke fluent English and possessed a natural knack for business. Chow became the public face of the company, the one who negotiated contracts, spoke with suppliers, and handled the daily interactions with corporate clients. For nearly a decade, their hard work paid off handsomely. The sewing business expanded, and they secured a lucrative contract to make garments for a commercial giant, producing beautiful items for major brands, including Disney. During these years, laughter filled their home, and the future seemed brighter than the Texas sky. Chapter 2. The Shadow of Misfortune. But life, much like the patterns on a woven fabric, has its twists and turns. By the year 2011, the family's sewing business faced a severe downturn. The lucrative contract with Disney was lost, and a string of financial difficulties began to weigh heavily on the family. In traditional Vietnamese culture, when a family experiences a sudden run of bad luck, it is not uncommon to seek spiritual answers. For thousands of years, people have believed in the power of spiritual balance, seeking the blessings of the lucky god and the money protection god to bring peace and prosperity. When a family faces a major crisis, such as a business failure or personal distress, they often seek the guidance of a spiritual advisor to lift curses and restore harmony. Hoping to find a solution, Chow Tran and his mother-in-law, Hong, began searching through a local Vietnamese newspaper. They found an advertisement for a spiritual advisor named Daphne Wright, who operated out of Houston, located about 250 miles away. The advertisement claimed she could remove bad curses, bring good fortune, and protect families from negative energy. Encouraged by his family, Chow contacted Daphne and arranged a meeting at her home in Houston. He hoped that her rituals would turn their fortunes around. However, instead of finding relief, the family unknowingly stepped into a dark web of greed. Daphne Wright was not a healer. She was an opportunist who used spiritual manipulation to control her clients. Over the course of a year, as the sewing business continued to struggle, Daphne began charging exorbitant fees for her services. She ran up a massive tab on credit, claiming that more expensive rituals were required to lift the stubborn curse. The debt ballooned to a staggering sum between $250,000 and $280,000. Terrified of spiritual retribution and desperate to save their family, Long, Hong, and Chow continued to pour whatever money they had into Daphne's hands. Chapter 3. A Quiet Morning Broken. On the morning of June 10th, 2012, at 7:29 in the morning, the quiet of a Texas Sunday was broken. Emergency dispatchers received a call from Chow Tran. He sounded highly anxious, requesting a welfare check on his elderly in-laws, Long Nguyen and Hong Lu. He explained that his family had gathered outside the apartment and noticed that a window was open, but no one was answering the door. Officer Weller, a dedicated member of the Arlington Police Department with 14 years of experience, was dispatched to the residence. When he arrived, he found the family standing outside, looking deeply concerned. The early hour and the palpable tension made it clear that this was not a routine welfare check. Upon entering the apartment, Officer Weller noticed signs of what appeared to be a burglary. The living room was in disarray, with compact discs scattered about and furniture moved. Officer Weller called out, but there was only silence. He checked the kitchen, the bathroom, and the living spaces, finding them empty. Finally, he entered the bedroom. Initially, the room seemed vacant, but as he turned to leave, his flashlight caught hand smudges on the wall next to a small closet. A deep instinct told him to hesitate, but his duty compelled him to open the door. Inside the closet, a tragic scene awaited him. Long and Hong had been bound with duct tape and were completely unresponsive. Officer Weller immediately stepped out to the living room, composed himself, and called for a supervisor and the crime scene unit. Chapter 4. The Tangled Web of Clues. Arlington homicide investigators, including Detective Stewart, a veteran with 21 years of experience, arrived at the scene. The physical evidence was puzzling. The apartment had been ransacked, suggesting a robbery. On the coffee table, investigators found a plate of crushed prescription pills and a marijuana cigarette. Additionally, a light blue bandana was wrapped around a beer bottle, a detail that initially pointed toward local gang activity, as light blue was a color associated with certain active Vietnamese youth gangs in the area. However, Detective Stewart was skeptical. The crime scene felt too staged, as if someone had deliberately left a trail of clues to mimic a gang-related robbery. As the investigation proceeded, detectives attended the autopsy at the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's office. The findings were heartbreaking. The victims had suffered blunt force trauma to the head, but the actual cause of death was suffocation due to the extensive layers of duct tape wrapped around their faces. It was clear that the perpetrators had acted with deliberate, lethal intent. Shortly after the autopsy, Detective Stewart received a call from an insurance company. The detective learned that Long and Hong had a life insurance policy worth $1 million, and one of the primary beneficiaries was their son-in-law, Chow Tran. When questioned, Chow cooperated fully. He provided a detailed, airtight alibi for himself and his family, explaining that they had been celebrating his father-in-law's birthday until 10 o'clock that night, after which they went straight home. Investigators collected DNA and fingerprint samples from Chow and other family members, but none of them matched the evidence found at the scene, including the DNA recovered from the marijuana cigarette. The case eventually went cold for more than 2 years. Chapter 5: The Whispers of Time. For 2 years, the investigation remained at a standstill. Homicide detectives had interviewed more than 50 people, but no solid leads emerged. Then, in October 2015, a breakthrough occurred. A young man named Willie Guillory was arrested for stealing a horse in Houston, which is a felony in the state of Texas. Because of this felony conviction, his DNA profile was entered into the national database known as CODIS. Within days, the system flagged a match. Willie's DNA matched the DNA found on the marijuana cigarette left at the crime scene in Arlington back in 2012. At the time of the murders, Willie had been only 16 years old, which was why his profile was not previously in the system. On October 17, 2015, investigators brought Willie in for questioning. When confronted with the scientific evidence, the young man broke down and confessed. He revealed that he had not acted alone. He had been recruited by his uncle, Bobby Guillory. Chapter 6: Unmasking the Puppeteer. Willie explained that on June 9, 2012, his uncle Bobby had driven him from Houston to Arlington. Bobby had been given a key to the apartment to stage a burglary. The plan, orchestrated by a spiritual advisor named Daphne Wright, was to make the crime look like a gang-related robbery to help Daphne collect on a massive debt. On December 16, 2015, detectives arrested 52-year-old Bobby Guillory in Katy, Texas, on 2 counts of capital murder. Faced with the evidence, Bobby also confessed. He explained that he had been laid off, was struggling financially, and had been promised $10,000 by Daphne to carry out the deed. Bobby confirmed that Daphne Wright was the mastermind behind the entire plot. When Chow and Hong could not pay the $280,000 debt they owed her, Daphne learned about their substantial life insurance policies. She pressured the family, suggesting that they could collect on the policies to settle their financial obligations. According to Bobby, Daphne obtained the key to the apartment directly from Chow Tran. Chapter 7: The Pursuit of Justice. With this crucial information, detectives obtained a search warrant for Daphne Wright's home in Houston. Inside, they discovered detailed financial ledgers showing that she charged clients tens of thousands of dollars for spiritual services. To secure a conviction against Daphne, prosecutors offered Chow Tran a plea deal of immunity in exchange for his full and honest testimony. Chow agreed to cooperate. On August 26, 2019, the trial of Daphne Wright began. Chow took the stand and described Daphne as a greedy, manipulative woman who used her spiritual influence to control his family. He claimed that he felt completely powerless under her psychological grip. The defense argued that Chow was a willing participant who wanted the insurance payout for himself, noting that there was no written documentation of the alleged $280,000 debt. However, the jury ultimately found the prosecution's case compelling. In September of 2019, Daphne Wright was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Bobby Guillory and Willie Guillory also faced justice for their roles in conspiracy. While the legal resolution brought some closure, the memory of Long Nguyen and Hong Lu remained a poignant reminder of the importance of community, vigilance, and the pursuit of truth. The dedicated efforts of the Arlington Police Department ensured that those who preyed on the vulnerable were held accountable, allowing the community to heal and remember the sweet, hard-working couple for the love and warmth they brought to the Lone Star State. The morning sun of Texas has a way of rising with a sudden, golden intensity, casting long and warm shadows across the pavement of Arlington. It was June 10, 2012, a day that began like many others in Tarrant County, with the gentle hum of early morning traffic and the sweet scent of blooming crepe myrtles carrying, on the warm breeze, But beneath the quiet suburban surface, a deeply moving story of family, faith, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of justice was about to unfold. The gathering on the sidewalk. At exactly 7:29 in the morning, the emergency dispatch center in Arlington received a call. The voice on the other end belonged to Chow Tran, a 38-year-old Vietnamese immigrant whose tone was thick with mixture of confusion and growing worry. He was calling to request a welfare check on his elderly in-laws, Long Nguyen and Hong Lu. The dispatcher, trained to remain calm and collected, listened carefully as Chow explained the situation in his earnest, accented English. "My dad's name is Long, last name Nguyen. He is 70-something right now. My family, my wife, my son, we want to check on them because they did not answer the phone. They saw the window was open, and everything inside seemed to have fallen down. We are too scared to go inside." To the responding officers, a welfare check early in the morning was somewhat unusual. Usually, such requests came later in the day, after hours of unanswered calls. Officer Weller, a dedicated veteran of the force with 14 years of experience, was dispatched to the apartment complex. When Weller arrived, he noticed a large group of people standing outside on the sidewalk. It was an entire extended family, their faces etched with anxiety. The sheer number of people waiting outside immediately signaled to Weller that this was not a routine call. The family members explained that they had knocked on the door, but received no response. Looking closer, they had noticed that one of the windows to the residence was slightly ajar, and the blinds were disrupted. Officer Weller approached the front door, his hand resting instinctively on his utility belt. He knocked loudly and announced his presence. "Arlington Police. Is anyone inside?" Only silence greeted him. Taking a deep breath, Weller opened the unlocked door and stepped into the apartment. The interior was in complete disarray, presenting the classic telltale signs of a burglary. Drawers were pulled out, items were scattered across the floor, and the living room appeared to have been thoroughly ransacked. Compact discs were strewn about, and furniture was pushed out of its normal placement. Weller moved cautiously through the space, calling out as he went. "Hello? Police officer. If anyone is here, please speak up." He checked the kitchen, finding it empty. He looked into the bathroom, but there was no one there. The only remaining area was the master bedroom. Weller stepped inside. At first glance, the bedroom appeared empty as well. The officer stood in the center of the room, his flashlight beam sweeping across the unmade bed and the cluttered dresser. He began to turn around, thinking that perhaps the elderly couple had simply gone out for an early morning walk and that the apartment had been burglarized while they were away. He felt a brief wave of relief, hoping that the family outside would soon be reunited with their healthy, unharmed grandparents. But as he turned toward the doorway, his flashlight beam caught something on the wall next to a very small closet. There were faint, dark hand smudges on the plaster, as if someone had reached out to steady themselves in a moment of extreme distress. A sudden, heavy hesitation settled over Weller. Every instinct built over a decade of policing urged him to be cautious. He walked over to the small closet door and slowly pulled it open. What he discovered inside would stay with him for the rest of his career. Two elderly individuals, whom he recognized from descriptions as Long Nguyen and Hong Lu, were inside the cramped space. They had been bound tightly with silver duct tape around their limbs, and their heads and mouths were heavily wrapped in the same material. There was no movement, no sound. Weller immediately checked for signs of life, but was far too late. The scene was incredibly violent, with clear evidence of physical trauma. In that split second, the reality of the tragedy set in. Weller felt a wave of shock wash over him. He walked out of the bedroom, his mind racing, unable to speak or even use his radio immediately. He stood in the middle of the quiet living room for several long seconds, gathering his composure, before finally keying his microphone to call for supervisors and the crime scene unit. A legacy of hope and hard work. To understand the weight of this tragedy, one must look back to the year 2000, when Long Nguyen and Hong Le first arrived in the United States from Vietnam. Like thousands of their compatriots who had immigrated in waves since 1975, they brought with them very little in the way of material wealth, but an abundance of hope, determination, and deeply cherished cultural traditions. They chose to settle in Arlington, Texas, a vibrant city in Tarrant County known for its diverse population and its welcoming, close-knit Vietnamese community. The area had become a haven for immigrant families throughout the 80s and late 90s, offering a supportive network where newcomers could establish businesses, preserve their heritage, and build a legacy for future generations. Long and Hong were the very definition of industrious. Soon after settling in Texas, they established a commercial sewing business. Because they spoke limited English, they enlisted the help of their son-in-law, Chow Tran, to manage the business affairs. Chow, who was energetic and spoke fluent English, became the public face of the enterprise, handling contracts, dealing with suppliers, and managing the day-to-day operations. For nearly a decade, the family business flourished. Through sheer dedication, long hours, and meticulous craftsmanship, they secured highly lucrative contracts, including a prestigious agreement to manufacture garments for a major commercial giant, producing merchandise for Disney. It was the realization of their American dream. They bought a comfortable home, supported their 3 children and grandchildren, and became respected, prominent figures within the local community. Neighbors knew them as a sweet, generous, and gentle couple who never bothered anyone and were always ready to offer a helping hand. However, the tides of fortune can be fickle. By the year 2011, the national economy had shifted, and the family's business began to face severe challenges. They lost their major contract, and the steady stream of income slowed to a trickle. The sewing workshop, once filled with the rhythmic hum of sewing machines and the cheerful chatter of workers, grew quiet. As the financial pressure mounted, the family began to feel a deep sense of despair. In accordance with traditional beliefs carried over from their homeland, they did not view their misfortune as merely an economic downturn. They believed that a spiritual cloud, perhaps a curse or a misalignment of spiritual energies, had settled over their lives and their business. For generations, many families in their culture believed in spiritual guardians and protection of ancestral blessings. When facing major life crises, such as impending bankruptcy, severe illness, or legal troubles, it was customary to seek the guidance of a spiritual advisor. These advisors were believed to possess the ability to perform rituals, offer prayers, and lift negative influences to restore harmony and prosperity. Desperate to save the business they had worked so hard to build, Chow Tran and his mother-in-law, Hong Lu, began searching the local Vietnamese newspapers for help. It was there that they found an advertisement for a spiritual advisor based in Houston, approximately 250 miles away. The advisor, a woman named Daphne Wright, claimed she could remove powerful curses and restore good fortune to those in need. With a glimmer of hope, Chow contacted Daphne and arranged to meet her at her home in Houston. The family was deeply encouraged by her promises, believing that she was the key to turning their fortunes around. They could not have foreseen that this search for a spiritual savior would set off a chain of events, culminating in an unimaginable tragedy. The investigation begins. Within hours of the discovery, the apartment was transformed into a bustling command center. Detective Stewart, a veteran homicide investigator with 21 years of experience, arrived to take charge of the case. Having seen some of the city's most challenging cases, Stewart was nonetheless struck by the sheer brutality of the crime. This is one of the worst scenes I've encountered in my over 2 decades in homicide, Stewart remarked to his team as they began their initial walkthrough. The physical evidence suggested a robbery. The living room was disorganized, items were scattered, and valuable electronics seemed to have been targeted. But several details caught the detective's attention. appearing almost too deliberate. On the coffee table sat a small plate containing crushed prescription pills, arranged as if someone had intended to consume them. Nearby, a partially smoked marijuana cigarette lay in an ashtray. Most striking of all was a light blue bandana carefully wrapped around an empty beer bottle left on the table. In Arlington, certain active youth groups and gangs were known to use specific colors, and a light blue bandana was a recognized symbol. At first glance, it appeared that gang members had broken into the home, committed the crime, and left their calling card to claim responsibility. However, Detective Stewart and his team remained skeptical. Sometimes, a crime scene looks a little too perfect, Stewart explained during a briefing. It was set up in a way that practically screamed gang activity. We began to theorize that the scene might have been staged to throw us off the track. To find answers, investigators turned to the family. Because of the language barrier and profound grief affecting the household, Chow Tran acted as the primary spokesperson. He met with Detective Stewart and explained that on the night of June 9th, the entire family had gathered to celebrate Long Wen's birthday. It had been a joyful occasion, filled with laughter and traditional food. According to Chow, the elderly couple had a wonderful time, staying at the party until approximately 10 o'clock in the evening. Another family member had kindly driven them back to their apartment, which was the last time anyone saw them alive. When asked if the couple kept large amounts of cash at home, Chow admitted that while some older immigrants preferred keeping their savings close at hand rather than trusting commercial banks, his in-laws did not have much money left due to the decline of the sewing business. He expressed absolute disbelief that anyone would want to harm them, describing them as peaceful people with no known enemies. On June 11, 2012, the medical examiner completed the autopsies. The findings were deeply sobering. The victims had suffered significant blunt force trauma to their heads, likely inflicted by a heavy, flat object such as a hammer. However, the head injuries were not the primary cause of death. Hong Lee's face had been wrapped in 25 feet of heavy duct tape, and Long Nguyen's face had been wrapped in 10 feet of the same material. They had died of suffocation. The realization of the immense suffering the gentle couple had endured redoubled the detectives' determination to find those responsible. A sudden revelation. While the forensic teams processed the apartment for fingerprints, hair fibers, and DNA, a routine notification shook up the direction of the investigation. Detective Stewart received a phone call from an insurance representative. It was standard procedure for insurance companies to contact law enforcement when a policyholder died under suspicious circumstances, particularly when the policy carried a significant value. In this case, the life insurance policies on Long Nguyen and Hong Lu totaled more than $1 million. When Stewart inquired about the beneficiaries, the answer was unexpected. One of the primary beneficiaries was Chow Tran. On June 13, 2012, investigators invited Chow back to the police station to discuss the business finances and the insurance policies. Chow remained cooperative, explaining that the policies were established to ensure the commercial sewing business could survive and continue supporting the family if either of the elders passed away. Furthermore, Chow and the rest of the family provided consistent, matching alibis for the night of the murders. They explained that after the birthday celebration, they had returned to Chow's home, where they played card games and socialized well past midnight. Forensic analysts successfully extracted a clean DNA profile from the partially smoked marijuana cigarette found on the coffee table. They ran the profile through the national database, hoping for an immediate match that would identify the intruder. Unfortunately, the search yielded no results. The DNA did not match any of the family members, nor did it match any profiles in the federal database. It was a challenging moment for the team, Stewart recalled. When a DNA profile does not appear in the system, it often means the individual has no prior felony convictions, or They might be a minor whose records are not entered in the same manner. Without any new leads, the case gradually slowed. Investigators interviewed over 50 to 60 people, including neighbors, business associates, and community members, but no concrete suspect emerged. For 2 long years, the file remained on the shelf, a quiet testament to a dedicated search for answers that had temporarily run out of road. The thread unravels. The turning point came in October of 2015. More than 3 years after the tragedy, the Arlington Police Department received an automated notification from the state database. A fresh DNA profile had been entered into the system following a felony conviction, and it was a perfect match for the DNA recovered from a marijuana cigarette left at the crime scene. The profile belonged to Willie Guillory, a young man who had recently been convicted of felony involving the theft of a horse near Houston. Crucially, at the time of the murders in 2012, Willie had been only 16 years old because he was a minor with no prior felony record. His DNA had never been entered into the national database until his recent conviction as an adult. On October 17, 2015, officers located Willie Guillory and brought him to the Arlington Police Station. Initially, Willie was arrested on a parole violation rather than a direct warrant for murder, allowing detectives to gauge his cooperation. During the interview, Detective Stewart gently presented the scientific reality of the DNA evidence. He explained how modern forensics worked and why the presence of his DNA on the cigarette inside the apartment placed him directly at the scene of the crime. Faced with the undeniable facts, the young man broke down, weeping openly. He confessed his involvement, but insisted he had not acted alone. Willie explained that in the summer of 2012, he was 16 and living under the care of his 49-year-old uncle, Bobby Guillory. According to Willie, his uncle had approached him and said they needed to travel up to Arlington to take care of a matter. Willie, feeling he had little choice but to follow his uncle's instructions, accompanied him on the 3-hour drive from Houston to Arlington on June 9th, 2012. When they arrived at the apartment complex, Bobby produced a key to the residence. Their instructions, Willie claimed, were enter the empty apartment, thoroughly search it, and intentionally stage the scene to look like a random gang burglary. They scattered items, left the blue bandana, the pills, and the beer bottle. Willie admitted that he had smoked a small portion of a marijuana cigarette and left it in the living room, unaware that this small action would eventually lead detectives back to him. While they were still inside the apartment, Long and Hong returned home. A struggle ensued near the front door. Bobby grabbed the elderly husband, incapacitating him with a heavy object, while Willie tried to prevent Hong from escaping or calling for help. Once the couple was subdued, Bobby used duct tape to secure them, and together they moved the victims into the bedroom closet before fleeing the scene. When Detective Stewart asked why they had targeted the specific couple, Willie revealed a crucial piece of the puzzle. He stated that the entire plot had been organized and funded by a woman named Daphne Wright, a friend of his Uncle Bobby. "My uncle met with Daphne at her office," Willie explained. "She told him that some people owed her a large amount of money and refused to pay. She said if they did not pay what they owed, she wanted them taken care of permanently. She promised my uncle $10,000 to do it, and she was the one who provided the key to the apartment." Connecting the dots, armed with this groundbreaking information, investigators immediately focused their attention on Daphne Wright. They discovered that Daphne operated a highly popular spiritual advising business in the Houston area. She was a prominent figure in her local community, married with 3 daughters, and known for her strong, direct personality. She offered a variety of spiritual services, including rituals to bring prosperity, heal relationships, and remove spiritual blockages. When detectives reached out to Chow Tran to ask if he was familiar with Daphne Wright, they noticed a sudden shift in his demeanor rather than cooperating directly as he had in the past. Chow immediately referred all questions to his legal counsel. This reaction heightened the investigators' suspicions that there was a deeper connection between the family's finances, the spiritual advisor, and the tragedy. On December 16, 2015, detectives traveled to Katy, Texas, to arrest 52-year-old Bobby Guillory. Facing 2 counts of capital murder, Bobby initially remained silent, but eventually chose to cooperate after being presented with the details of his nephew's confession. Bobby expressed deep remorse, claiming he was in a state of extreme financial desperation at the time, having been laid off from his job and facing the prospect of homelessness. He confirmed that Daphne Wright had approached him with the offer of $10,000 to collect a debt or eliminate the debtors. According to Bobby, Chow Tran and Hong Lu had become deeply involved with Daphne's services. Over the course of a year, as the commercial sewing business continued to struggle, Chow had repeatedly turned to Daphne for spiritual interventions. Instead of paying for each service up front, Daphne had extended a substantial line of credit to the family. Over time, the outstanding balance ballooned to an astronomical sum estimated between $250,000 and $280,000. When Daphne demanded payment, the family simply did not have the funds. Knowing that the family held substantial life insurance policies, a plan was conceived to utilize those policies to resolve the massive debt. Most shocking of all was Bobby's allegation regarding the key to the apartment. When Detective Stewart asked Bobby how Daphne had obtained the key to the residence, Bobby replied without hesitation, "She told me she got it directly from Chow Tran." The path to justice. On August 31st, 2016, investigators executed an arrest warrant for Daphne Wright at her Houston home, along with a comprehensive search warrant. Inside the residence, officers discovered detailed business ledgers. The records confirmed that Daphne was charging clients tens of thousands of dollars for individual spiritual ceremonies, with some ledger entries detailing outstanding balances of $30,000 and $40,000. Daphne's husband, Howard, was interviewed by detectives. He appeared completely shocked by the allegations, maintaining that he had absolutely no knowledge of his wife's business debts or any criminal activities, asserting that he believed her spiritual practice was entirely peaceful. Daphne herself refused to make any statements without her attorney present, maintaining a calm and detached composure throughout her processing. In order to build an airtight case against the primary coordinator of the conspiracy, prosecutors made a strategic decision. They offered Chow Tran a specialized immunity agreement in exchange for his complete and truthful testimony regarding the financial arrangements and the interactions with Daphne Wright. During his formal depositions, Chow explained the profound psychological influence Daphne held over his family. He described how they genuinely believed in her spiritual authority and feared that if they failed to pay their debts, she would place a devastating curse upon their children and grandchildren. Chow claimed that in a state of extreme distress, Hong Lu had suggested sacrificing herself so the family could collect the insurance money to pay Daphne and protect their descendants. According to Chow, Daphne had embraced the idea, but insisted that both elders must be included to ensure the payout was sufficient to cover the entire $280,000 debt. Although investigators remained deeply skeptical of Chow's claim that his mother-in-law had willingly participated in such a plan, his testimony was vital to securing a conviction against the mastermind who had hired the hitman. The trial of Daphne Wright began on August 26, 2019. The courtroom was filled with community members, family supporters, and legal observers. Chow Tran took the stand, detailing the massive financial pressure, the constant demands from Daphne, and the delivery of the apartment key. The defense team vigorously cross-examined Chow, arguing that he was using Daphne as a scapegoat to protect himself and retain the remaining insurance funds, pointing out that there was no physical paperwork documenting the exact $280,000 debt. In September of 2019, after hours of careful deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict. Daphne Wright was found guilty of capital murder. Under Texas law, she received a mandatory sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. Both Bobby and Willie Guillory also faced severe legal consequences for their direct roles in the physical crime. A community restored. Though the legal proceedings brought a formal conclusion to the case, the true heart of the story lay in the healing of the Arlington community. The tragedy of Long Nguyen and Hong Lu served as a powerful lesson about the dangers of extreme desperation, while highlighting the enduring strength of community that rallied together in the face of sorrow. In the years following the trial, the local Vietnamese American community in Tarrant County established a supportive outreach program. The initiative was designed to assist newly arrived immigrant families with financial literacy, business counseling, and modern legal resources, ensuring that no one would ever feel so isolated or desperate as to fall prey to predatory practices. Detective Stewart, reflecting on his long career in the homicide unit, found a sense of peace in the resolution of the case. Justice as a way of finding its path, Stewart shared with his colleagues. It may take years and the road may be winding, but the truth eventually comes to light. The memory of Long and Hong lives on in the strength of their children and the community that refused to let them be forgotten. Under the warm Texas sun, the sewing shops of Arlington continue to hum with life, a testament to the enduring spirit of hard work, family devotion, and the hope of a brighter, safer tomorrow for all who seek their dreams on these welcoming shores. Chapter 1. A Quiet Morning in Texas. The summer sun in Arlington, Texas, always arrived with a heavy, golden warmth that blanketed the wide streets and quiet neighborhoods. On the morning of June 10, 2012, at exactly 7:29 in the morning, that peaceful silence was broken by a call to the emergency dispatch center. The voice on the other end of the line belonged to Chow Tran, a 38-year-old Vietnamese immigrant. His tone was a mixture of hesitation and rising anxiety. He was calling to request a welfare check on his elderly in-laws, Long Nguyen and Hong Lee. The emergency operator, trained to find clarity in moments of panic, listened carefully as Chow struggled to spell out the names. He explained that his father-in-law was named Long, spelling it out letter by letter, and that his last name was Nguyen. He mentioned that his father-in-law was in his 70s. Chow explained that his family had grown deeply concerned. His son and his wife had gone to the apartment to check on the elderly couple. Through the window, they saw that things inside were in complete disarray, with items fallen to the floor. The window itself was open, which was highly unusual for a morning that was already turning hot. The responding officer, Officer Weller, was dispatched to the apartment complex. When he arrived, he noticed a large family gathering outside the apartment. In his 14 years of experience on the force, he knew that welfare checks rarely occurred this early in the morning, nor did they typically involve an entire family waiting anxiously on the pavement. The family members were too terrified to enter the residence themselves. Sensing that something was terribly wrong, Officer Weller entered the apartment, calling out to see if anyone was home. The living room was empty, as were the kitchen and the bathroom. The apartment was in a state of complete disarray, resembling a burglary. The only room left to inspect was the bedroom. Initially, a quick scan of the bedroom revealed nothing out of the ordinary. Officer Weller turned to leave, holding his flashlight, but as he turned, he noticed smudge marks on the wall next to a very small closet. A quiet instinct told him to pause. He hesitated for a moment, feeling a sudden reluctance to open the door, but his duty compelled him to check every corner. When he opened the closet door, he discovered the elderly couple Long Nguyen and Hong Lee. Inside, they were bound with duct tape around their limbs, heads, and mouths. There was no sign of life. The scene was incredibly grim, leaving the veteran officer in a state of shock. He walked out of the bedroom into the living room, Unable to speak or use his radio immediately, after catching his breath, he requested a supervisor and a crime scene unit. Chapter 2, the investigation begins. When the homicide investigators arrived, they were deeply shaken by the severity of the crime. Detective Stewart, a veteran with 21 years in the homicide division, noted that the scene was one of the most violent he had ever witnessed. There were clear signs of a struggle. The walls showed marks where the victims had grabbed them as they were taken toward the back of the apartment. In the living room, furniture was overturned and compact discs were scattered across the floor, suggesting a robbery. However, the sheer level of violence seemed excessive for a simple burglary. The victims had suffered blunt force trauma to their heads, possibly inflicted by a tool like a hammer, though no weapon was found at the scene. The extensive use of duct tape, 25 feet wrapped around the wife's face and 10 feet around the husband's, indicated that the perpetrators intended to cause grave harm. The medical examiner later confirmed that the cause of death was suffocation. To the investigators, some of the evidence left behind seemed almost too deliberate. On the coffee table lay a plate of crushed prescription pills and a handmade cigarette. A light blue bandana was wrapped around a beer bottle, placed prominently as if it were a calling card. In Arlington, there were active local gangs known for using specific colors, and a light blue bandana was associated with certain groups. However, detective intuition suggested that the scene might have been staged to look like a gang-related robbery gone wrong. Plus. Evidence found initial investigative theory. Plus. Blue bandana attempted gang association. Crushed pills staged substance use. Scattered CDs staged robbery disarray. Plus. The detectives collected genetic samples from a handmade cigarette, took hair fibers, and processed the duct tape for fingerprints, hoping to find a direct link to the perpetrators. Chapter 3, The American Dream. Long Nguyen and Hong Lee had immigrated to the United States from Vietnam in the year 2000. They brought with them their children, their grandchildren, and a deep respect for their cultural traditions. Settling in Arlington, Texas, which hosted a vibrant and supportive Vietnamese community, they sought to build a prosperous legacy. The family established a commercial sewing business. Because Chow Tran spoke the best English, he became the face of the business, managing relations with contractors and clients. For nearly a decade, the business thrived, even securing a lucrative contract to manufacture garments for a major international entertainment company. However, by the year 2011, their fortunes shifted. The major contract was lost, and the business faced severe financial difficulties. In search of a solution, the family looked at traditional beliefs. In many traditional Asian cultures, it is common to seek the guidance of a spiritual advisor during times of significant hardship, such as financial distress or personal crisis, to help restore harmony and invite good fortune. Searching through a local Vietnamese newspaper, Chow Tran and his mother-in-law, Hong Lee, found an advertisement for a spiritual advisor located 250 miles away in Houston. The advisor advertised services to remove negative curses and bring blessings of prosperity. Hoping to save their business, Chow traveled to Houston to meet with the advisor, a woman named Daphne Wright. She performed a traditional ritual, and the family returned home filled with renewed hope that their circumstances would soon improve. Chapter 4, The Shadow of Debt. As the months passed, the family's business did not recover. Instead of seeking alternative business strategies, Chow and his mother-in-law continued to rely heavily on Daphne's spiritual services. Over time, the cost of these rituals accumulated significantly. Because the family could not pay up front, Daphne extended them credit, and the total debt quickly ballooned to a sum between $250,000 and $280,000. Daphne Wright was not one to overlook an unpaid debt. When she demanded payment, the family simply did not have the funds. However, Daphne discovered that Chow and his wife were the beneficiaries of 2 substantial life insurance policies taken out on the elderly couple, totaling over $1 million. Behind the scenes, a dark plan began to take shape. Investigators would later learn that Daphne allegedly suggested using the life insurance policies as a way to settle the outstanding debt. In the immediate aftermath of the tragedy, detectives interviewed Chow Tran, who was acting as the family's spokesperson. He explained that the night before the discovery, the family had gathered to celebrate his father-in-law's birthday. The elderly couple had enjoyed the evening and were driven home by another relative around 10:30 in the evening. This was the last time they were seen alive. Chow cooperated fully with the initial questions, providing timelines and names of those present at the party. Genetic samples and fingerprints were gathered from Chow and other family members to compare against the evidence found at the apartment. When the results returned from the National Genetic Database, there was no match. The genetic profile from a handmade cigarette did not match anyone in the system, nor did it match any family members. Without a match, the case gradually went cold. For over 2 years, there was no new movement on the investigation, leaving the family and the community waiting for answers. Chapter 5, The Missing Piece. The breakthrough came in October of the year 2015. The national database flagged a genetic match for the handmade cigarette left at the crime scene. The profile belonged to Willie Guillory, who had recently been convicted of a felony involving the theft of a horse in Houston. In the year 2012, Willie had been only 16 years old. Because he was a minor with no prior felony convictions, his genetic profile had not been in the national database at the time of the murders. His recent conviction as an adult finally brought his information into the system. On October 17, 2015, investigators brought Willie Guillory in for questioning under a parole violation warrant. When presented with the scientific evidence linking him to the apartment in Arlington, Willie broke down and confessed. He revealed that he had not acted alone. He explained that his uncle, Bobby Guillory, had recruited him for a job in Arlington. On June 9, 2012, they made the 3-hour drive from Houston. According to Willie, his uncle had been given a key to the apartment to gain entry and stage a robbery. The plan was to throw things around to make it look like gang members did it. Willie explained during his confession, "We brought the bandana, the pills, and the beer bottle. I smoked part of the cigarette and left it there." Willie described how they waited for the couple to return. When the elderly couple entered, a struggle ensued, and they were ultimately bound and placed in the closet. When asked why they had targeted the specific